Hi guys, welcome to the second video of finding the roots. The zeros, the x-intercepts. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this one, all right? And I'm going to tell you about this one, all right? So we're going to go ahead and equal this to 0. And again, some of your worksheets might already have it equal to 0. No problem, okay? If it doesn't, go ahead and equal it to 0 so you know what you're doing. You're finding your zeros, you're finding your roots, you're finding those x-intercepts. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now, let's look at this one. What's interesting about this one is that this one has a GCF. Has a GCF. So let's go ahead and figure out what that GCF is. What does 2, 12, and 10 have in common? It has a 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ignore my 0 off to the side because we're going to go ahead and factor this first and then we're going to get into our zeros. So we're going to go ahead and pull out this 2 because 2 divided by 2 is 1, 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So we know that 2 can go into all three of these numbers, okay? So 2 divided by 2 is 1, so we are left with x squared. Plus 12 divided by 2 is 6, and we're not pulling out an x, so we're leaving it. Plus 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay, so we have pulled out our GCF. All right, now let's keep working. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get into factoring this quadratic. And we have dealt with some GCFs before, so this should not be too new for you. Okay. So let's go ahead and do our A, B, and C. Our A, it's got the one with the x squared, so it's going to be our 1. Our B is going to be this 6, and our C is going to be 5. Next step, we have to determine what A times C is, and A is 1 times C is 5, and 1 times 5 is 5. And let's go ahead and identify our B, because now we're moving into the next step, okay? We're going to determine what two numbers multiply to your A times C, and the same two numbers that add to equal your B, which is 6. So let's look at the factors of 5. What two numbers multiply to 5? 1 times 5, that's all we got. Can these two numbers add to be 6? Yes, they can. So we're going to go ahead and fill in our blanks. Because 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 plus 5 equals 6. Perfect, right? So now we know we're going to get into factor by grouping right now. And we know that this right here replaces our B, okay? Because we need not 3, but 4 terms to do factor by grouping. So let's go ahead and move this down a little bit. So remember, we are keeping our A, so we're going to say x squared, and then we have our 1, so we're going to say plus, we're going to say 1x, plus 5x, and then we're going to keep our C, plus 5, okay? And that's where this 5 comes from this one, and then this 5 comes from our C, okay? I don't want you to be confused why we're doing 5. So this 5 is right here, and this 5 is right here, okay? Now, we're going to go ahead and get into factor by grouping. So we have this piece and this piece. So we have x squared plus, I know that our 1, I wrote our 1 in here, but I want us to practice writing it without that 1. We're just going to say x, okay? Think about that for a second. I'm just not writing this 1 because it's understood that there is an imaginary 1 here. All right. And then we're going to say 5x plus 5. Let's go ahead and draw in our ladders. Okay? Now, what do these two have in common? They have an x. So x squared divided by x leaves us with x, plus x divided by x is 1. What do these two have in common? They have a 5. So 5x divided by 5 is going to leave you with an x, and 5 divided by 5 is going to be plus 1. Perfect. These two match. So let's go ahead and write our final factored answer, okay? So we have x and 5, so we're going to write x plus 5 times x plus 1, okay? But don't forget, do not forget our GCF, which is a 2. Our GCF is a 2. So we're going to have to pull that and put that 2 right here. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of write it in this color so you know that that was our GCF from way up here. Okay, so from way, this 2 came from this. Now, we are now getting into finding our roots. Okay, finding our roots. And we know that if we went back up to the top, we know that these would all equal 0 because we are trying to find our roots, our zeros, our x-intercepts. Now, with this one, because we have our GCF, we have 3 different pieces that we have to equal to 0. So let's go ahead and start with this one. So we have 2 equals 0. Does 2 equal 0? Does 2 equal 0? No, it does not. They are not the same number. So 2 doesn't equal 0, but I just kind of want you to notate that off to the side so you're not extra confused by this, okay? Now we're going to take this one right here and say x plus 5 equals 0, and x plus 1 equals 0. That one comes from this one, and this one is right here. And we're equaling it to 0. Okay? We did that here. We just kind of knocked this one off our list, but I want us to just notate it so you're not confused or anything like that. It's okay that these numbers don't match. It's okay. All right. So we have x plus 5 equals 0 and x plus 1 equals 0. So let's solve for x. Just like normal, I'll just draw my line. So we're trying to move this 5 over here to get x by itself. So if it's plus 5, we're going to say minus 5 and minus 5. We're going to cancel that one out, and x equals 0 minus 5 is negative 5. Awesome. Let's come over here and do this one. If this is plus 1, we're trying to get x by itself. So minus 1 and minus 1. We're going to cancel out these. So x is going to equal 0 minus 1 is going to be negative 1. So now we know 2 doesn't equal 0. That's fine. I'm glad you notated it over here. Let's go ahead and put these two as, make these two in like write them as a point. So remember our x and our y right here. So our x is negative 5 and our y is 0. Here we know that our x is negative 1 and our y is 0. And those are your answers for this one.